I painted all of my parts today for the new wind turbine. I might have to, that might be okay. I might have to touch up some spots, yeah. The paint had got on the wood and then ripped off some of the primer in places. Yeah, definitely got to touch up some spots on it. But today I primered them. Tomorrow I can paint them. My new wind turbine. I even painted the alternator. Now I've done this with all of my Chevy engines. I've painted every alternator. It isn't going to hurt them at all to paint them. Actually, it's going to protect them from corrosion. Paint your alternator. So I got that all primered, ready to go. I'll put these in for the night so they don't get wet in case there's a dew. I highly doubt it, but just in case. And tomorrow I'll paint them. I've got all of my parts painted on both sides. One coat. I still have, it's still 2 in the afternoon, so I still have 2 hours left. I can get the second coat on these and maybe assemble this stuff tonight after dark. It's exciting. I think Monday I might be mounting this tower up in the air. Okay, I have to sort this all out. This is the 600 watt wind turbine I recently received in the mail. I've painted everything nicely, and now it's time to assemble it all. Looks like the alternator hardware. It's going to be quite a project. This is a serious wind turbine here. Actually, it's been quite a project. It took me a few days already just to get it painted and prepared. Sorry for the chicken. He has decided to stay underneath my RV and shout at the world continuously. So I'm going to look over my instructions. I'll be back in a minute here. Okay, I've got my tools. And I've laid the tail section out so I get an idea of what I've got here. And I've laid out my screws so I know what goes where. Finally sorted this all out. So now I can start putting this together. So I'm just going to piece everything together first. Hand tighten the screws. These all have lock nuts, which is good. Wind turbines can have a lot of vibration, so the lock nuts are good to have. As I stated earlier, I've got this green color. I figured green is fitting for green energy. What better way to do this? Most fitting color for a wind turbine. Let's see, which way do I want these screws? Facing inwards. Alright, so now the tail fin is going to be awkward for me because the tail fin is going to be huge and hang off the back side of this. So I'll probably put that on afterwards. So I'm going to tighten these bolts down first for now. It's not very bright out today, so forgive the low light quality. Now I just snug up the first one. I'm just going to have to go from this way. Snug up the first one. And then get the other one snug before I really give them a good torquing down. Alright, now I go back to the first and torque it nicely. So I won't bore you with all the bolts, but I'm going to do the rest now. I've got the tail assembly finished except for the tailpiece itself, and everything's torqued down. Now I'm going to put on the top bracket here first, because once I put that tail assembly on, or put the tail on the tail assembly, then I'm going to have some problems moving around in here with this. That'll be one of the last pieces I put together on here. So this guy goes up here with 4 bolts. So far everything's going together nice and neat and easy. This is some serious rugged hardware. They claim if you do this right, it'll last 100 years. With painting it and everything. I won't be here that long to find out, but I'll be happy if it lasts as long as I live. Alright, again, I won't bore you with the tightening down of bolts, but I'm going to snug this on now. Alright, now I'm going to mount the alternator. I do have the company's website open as I go here, so I have a good idea of what I'm doing as I go along. Oops, I'm going to need a different size wrench. There is one thing clearly marked in the instructions. The small, let me see, The long lobe with the small spacer is mounted upwards. Almost missed that point. Okay, that one goes first, and then this one goes on. Okay, now I have to go get my wrenches. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, there's the alternator mounted on the tail assembly. Now I'm going to put together the tail. Now the alternator, I've noticed, I do have some paint flaws. It's winter time, so I've had some trouble painting, but I'm going to touch that up once this is all together. I'm going to touch up any bare metal and paint these bars and stuff too. But I wanted to paint everything first and then do it one last coat after it's all together. But anyway, I noticed the alternator is angled upwards. And at first I thought it was a flaw, but the instructions show it at an upward angle as well. So that's got to be correct. So if you're putting together one of these, you might notice that when you're doing it. Now, the tail assembly. The tail consists of two pieces. Like this. And like this. It's a large tail, which I actually like. Large tail means it's going to catch the wind and spin into the wind nicely. That's a good thing. Now I'm supposed to use these washers when putting together the tail. Okay, there it is so far. Now I've just pieced together the tail assembly. I did use the washers because there's a lot of tension pulling these two bands of metal together like it is. They were straight and I had to pull them together. Now I'm going to tighten the bolts on there properly. Okay, there's my wind turbine laying down. It's actually quite massive. It's really large. So now I'm going to put that aside and start working on the hub assembly. Now I've got the blades. So I have to pay attention. They say again and again and again that the flat side, there's a curved side and there's a flat side. And they say again and again and again, round side to the PMA. And they say they even make it easier for you. There's a dimple on the rounded side. You can just feel it. There's a little bit of a rounded side, and there's a dimple on that. I don't know if you can see that. Yes, you can see it in the camera. That little indentation goes into the alternator. So this will be the outside, and that little indentation goes facing into the alternator. So now I've got the longer screws. Now they say it's quite a bit of force to put this together. Refer back to my instructions online here. I've got the instructions open on the internet as I go, just so I make sure I do it all right. Especially since I'm showing this to the world, I definitely want to do the right thing and do a good job the first time around. But they say it's going to be quite a job forcing this through here. Through this hole, because it's a very tight fit to ensure that there's no vibration. Oh good, I got lucky on this one and it fits nicely. Okay. these are also locking nuts to get a little indentation in the nut to make it lock itself on. Now when you do this, you're only supposed to go to 5 pounds of pressure. Now I don't have a torque wrench on me, so I'm going to do this by hand and just be very careful as I go. 5 pounds of pressure is not going to be a whole lot of pressure because you don't want to break the blades. That's the idea. You do not want to break or damage the blades. So you just make them snug. First thing I do is I get it lightly snugged up before I tighten it. Get both of the bolts lightly snugged on there. Once I get it, I can still see a gap of air between there. What I like about these blades, they look durable because they're really thick. They're very thick blades. Okay, that one's loose. Give it a little tightness. Okay, now they're both snug. That one's loose. So I'm just being very careful here. When one spins freely, then I tighten the other. Back and forth. Nice and gentle. Tighten this one a little bit more. Make them a little bit snug. That's my final tightening. Just snug. Just tight. You do not want to wrench these down hard. And as an auto mechanics, go back again, just check it. Don't put a lot of force. Just check it. Okay, that feels good. There's one on. Now again, this backside, this is the backside where the nuts are, and with the little indentation, and again the curved side of the blade is going towards the alternator. So I'm going to continue mounting these on. It's going to be awkward, so I'll turn off the camera for this part because I'm running out of space. Just want to show you the sheer size of this. It's filling half my RV. So I'm going to attempt to show me assembling the last couple pieces here, just to show you how awkward this is. It's so huge. This is no joke. This is a serious beast, this wind turbine. And these are some big blades. I'm impressed with the number and size of blades on this thing. The last couple blades are going to be really awkward for me. I don't know how I'm going to reach the center. So it'll be interesting, to say the least. There are a lot of warnings in the instructions, a lot. The blades are sharp, they will cut you. Never install or mount a wind turbine in the wind. You can cut yourself in half. That is no joke. These things, they say, spin as much as 2,000 RPM in a strong wind. So you do not want to play around with this stuff. And by the mass of this wind turbine, I can tell it's a serious turbine. Again, I make sure I mount the blades in the right direction each time. just cut my finger on the blade. Just so you know, they are sharp. I just cut myself. Nothing serious, but just rubbed against the edge of that blade lightly. That's all it takes. Gotta be really careful working with these, especially on the last couple blades when there's no room to maneuver, and you do not want to mess with this outdoors. In the wind, definitely not out in the wind. Now, this is going to be fun. The last and final blade. I'm literally sitting in between the blades. It's the only way I can reach. Yeah, this one's sort of awkward to get to. Now especially I have to be extremely careful I don't cut myself or anything in here. While I work on this. I'm going to have to take this out and look at the tower that I want to mount it on and make sure this isn't going to be too large for my plans. There is a lot of wind in this meadow, around 10 foot high, and until I get proper tower equipment, it's going to be safer to work with at 10 foot high anyway. So I plan on mounting this in the meadow today at a 10 foot height on a pole. So there it is. Let's see if I can untangle myself from this thing. I hope you can see it on the screen. I have to figure out where I'm going to put it. It is extremely large and barely fits in my RV. See if I can get myself out of here. So to mount that onto the alternator, I definitely have to take this outside. There's no way I'm finishing this inside here. That is really large. That's a serious set of blades. Alright, let me see if I can get this out the door, and we'll continue this outside. I hope I can reach it outdoors. Okay, forget it. I'll do it like this. Once I get the wire through, it's going to go easier. This is heavy. Okay, now, is that how it's supposed to hang? It really just sort of hangs.
Well, I imagine they had a larger pole.
No. 1.5 inch pole is what it calls for.
Some kind of bearings?
No. Yeah, 1.5 inches. That's the right pole. There's 1.5 inch water pipe. Well, at least I can reach it. Positive is going to go in here, so I need a crimp-on connector. And the negative generally is going to be the pipe, but I'm going to run the negative through the pipe. So I've got to get a find something that I can use for a negative under the body of this alternator. There's a big screw thread here. If I can find a fat short screw. Otherwise I'd have to put a crimp on the frame of the alternator. So that's how that's supposed to spin. It seems weird. I guess I'll find out once I mount it. So I've got to get a crimp on and a way to mount this negative. That's the two things right now. Because this is ground. Although if that's grounded, use one of these. Yes, I could. Now what I've done is I've taken down the little wind turbine for now. And I've also taken the post off of where it was and I put it into the center of this big frame for more support and strength. And I'm going to mount the big turbine here and I'm going to move the little wind turbine. Alright, you hand me that up there please and I will tighten it on. Over here. Well, yes. No, sorry, other side. Okay, the bolt side comes to me. Yes. Oh, this is sort of heavy. So awkward. Really hope that we don't get a gust of wind all of a sudden. Awkward. The shaft is turning. Now, can you stabilize this while I get out of the way? Do you have it?
Got it.
Okay. That's huge. Of course, watch the wind die now. Wouldn't that be crazy? Well, there it is. Now the wind stopped. How funny is that? So we'll wait for some wind and see what happens here. First motion. It just started gently turning in the breeze. But it does track into the wind very well. It spins round and round into the wind. It faces the wind. But this is not as sensitive in low wind speed as the smaller turbine. It's going to take a little bit more wind to make this one run. But it sure looks amazing up there. Now there's a nice sight. That's really nice. I like to see him spin faster though.